Welcome everyone to Chapter 3 of Black in Business, Her Story. I'm Justina Perry, founder and director of Buy Black NB, which was established to uplift the Black community and connect consumers with our beloved Black-owned businesses here on the South Coast of Massachusetts. It's been such a pleasure to co-host this Black in Business series. This is our third episode, and if you're new here, this is how we will spend our time today. We will be meeting some amazing women who are literally making history. Today, we'll meet Tanya Rivera-Falcone of Massive Brand Consulting, Paula Robinson-Deare of eWorkStyle Institute, the talented Marléna Johnson as our guest performer, and Starlene Alves of Al Santos Law, all business owners here to share with us. You don't want to miss it. And we cannot possibly kick the night off without my co-host here representing the New Bedford Historical Society, our partner in this series. Please join me in welcoming Rayana Grace.
Thanks for having me, Justina. I'm so excited for tonight and really looking forward to hearing more from these amazing women.
Me too. Really excited about it. And I am here in New Bedford. I'm really wondering where people are joining us from tonight. If you're watching live, we'd love to know which towns are represented here in our audience, all throughout the South Coast. So just leave us a line in the chat if you can. So Rayana, what's new with the Historical Society? What's going on with our partner?
Yeah, thanks, Justina. So we have really exciting news that we finally have broken ground for Abolition Row Park. It'll be in the historic district of downtown New Bedford, and hopefully will soon be known as its own abolitionist historic district. So we broke ground just a few days ago, and things are going really well. We will be having an official public groundbreaking on Friday, April 23rd. If anyone's able to make it, check out our Facebook page or our Instagram, New Bedford Historical Society, for more information. But we're super excited because this is a great first step in building the park, and it will be a new location, a new venue for events. Maybe in the future, Buy Black New Bedford will be able to host events there.
Can't wait.
Yeah, we're so excited. And the Historical Society has been pushing for this for a long time. So to be able to have a space that is reflective of all that this society has been doing, we'll be having a statue of Frederick Douglass sitting, reading, so that he's on ground level, a younger Douglass. And this was all brought about from community conversations and community feedback. So we're really excited. The plans are beautiful. And when it comes together, it's going to be such a great addition to our city. So definitely stay tuned for the progress as we move along. But we're excited that we're moving forward and can't wait to see the final result.
Congratulations. That is awesome, awesome news. So happy for the Historical Society in achieving that. So we will move on to welcoming our first guest, who is Paula Robinson-Deare. Born and raised in Boston, she developed a strong awareness of the impact that music and communications media can have on customs and belief, particularly the acquisition of language and action, street culture, personal identification, and social development for young people. In 1995, Paula founded eWorkStyle Institute, based on her graduate research in urban studies and planning at MIT. Through eWorkStyle Institute programs, she brings students around the world and she shows them how to explore, study, and create mixed media projects that address real, local to global socioeconomic issues. Her dream is to empower youth using the power of their voice to create mixed media products that balance the vast inaccuracies in telling of cultural histories of people of color around the world. Please, everyone, join me in welcoming Paula Robinson-Deare.
Justina, thank you for the opportunity for this introduction and to be able to tell my story. It starts in my childhood. My dad was a musician, and I was born in the 50s, and my dad was a musician in the 40s. And so one of the things that I had the opportunity to do, because he cut records with Decca, which was a famous recording company at the time. I could listen to his music on the radio when I was 5 and 6 years old. And particularly on Sundays when they would play his songs, I could listen to the music. And so the first impact that his music, he played this kind of Louisiana style jazz and blues mix. Um, the first impact of communications came through that music. One of the things that I have been able to see him do was change people from being mean or ornery to being um, almost bringing them to tears, particularly around the holidays when he played Christmas music. Well, on this particular Sunday, I'm all dressed up in my Sunday clothes and ready for church. Um, my dad was a Baptist, so we'd go to Baptist church. And my sister and I were the two oldest in the family. And I wanted to be a ballerina. And so I'm practicing, waiting for dad's music to come on the radio so I can practice my pirouettes. And so what happened was they were talking about the Negras on the radio. So the Negras this and the Negras that. And I'm 5 years old. I didn't know what the Negras were. And so my mom comes in to see if we're ready for church. And I said, I'm not ready yet because they keep talking about the Negras on the radio and I want to practice my best pirouette so that I can be a ballerina when I grow up. And my mother looked at me and I said, well, the Negras this and the Negras that. They keep talking about the Negras. Well, if they know where they all are, why don't they just go and lock them all up? And my, my mom looked at me in shock. And right about that time, my sister Bridget came running in the house and said, Ma, neighbors won't let me play with the kids next door anymore because they say that I'm a Negro. And she told us both to sit down in the chair. And so we sat down and we're both all dressed up and we've got, fluffy white dresses with puffy sleeves with the ribbons around our waist and, patent leather shoes and white socks. And she goes, I have something that I need to say to both of you. And Bridget's 2 years older than I am. And we go, what? And she goes, you're both Negroes. And she leaves the room. And so we started crying. And after about 2 or 3 minutes, we realized we didn't know what Negroes were. And we didn't know why we were crying, but it sounded bad because the way she said it. And so I looked at Bridget and she looked at me and she said, do you know what a Negro is? I don't know what a Negro is. And so we started to use our imagination because in church they were teaching us, well, when you become a teenager, your body's going to change and you have to be prepared for those kinds of changes. And so we came up with the thought that, okay, so being a Negro must be that you turn into a teenager, your body changes, and you become evil because they're arresting all the bad people on the radio. So we made a pact that if we became evil, that we would file off our horns, that, evil for us was growing horns. We would file off our horns and, we would make sure that the other one didn't become evil. And so that was our pact, and we went on with our day and didn't think any more about it. Years later, when Hellboy came out, we saw him filing off our horns. I had to make the phone call to my sister. He's a Negro, it was fun. Bottom line is, people had placed labels on us. We didn't know what those labels meant. But the first word that I learned how to read was the word Negro. And I still didn't know what it meant. It was never explained as being a person of color because my dad was a musician. On Sundays, he would invite everybody over to the house, all the other musicians. It was an average 10 of them because they switched out in the band. And he would cook 6 o'clock in the morning. They'd be there by noon. And the table in the dining room would be laid out with all kinds of food. He was Southern style cook. He's from Ohio, but his roots are in Louisiana. So he's a Louisiana style cook. And so the musicians would come, but Bridget and I would go to the table and we would grab everything we wanted and we would get underneath this huge dining room table with tablecloth to the bottom. And we would sit and play with people's shoes. He was babysitting us and my mom would take my other sisters out while they had those meetings. And it was about once a month and they would discuss where they were going to play, whose houses they had to stay at because they had to go in the back door and in the hotels and they couldn't use the facilities. And what roads they had to travel. And he went from Florida to Nova Scotia as a musician. And so those experiences evolved who I was growing up. And so I always had this thing in my mind that here you have all these different color Black men and a Jewish lawyer who used to pretend to be my father so that he could buy things. Like he bought a restaurant at one point, he'd buy taxi medallions so that his customers could come and see him. This was out of Boston. I was born and raised in Boston. And I remember thinking that how do they expect these men to be happy as entertainers and entertain when they were treating them so badly and they had to hide so much anger and pride, that these men had to work so hard. And I was so proud of them being able to sort of set themselves aside to be able to provide for their families. And so the integrity of the Black man and the pride of my father, and sort of made me a daddy's girl. And then by the time I was a teenager, I remember thinking that wealthy and poor people didn't know how to communicate with each other, that the poor did the work and the wealthy funded the work. So they were on the same team, but there was no communication between the two groups. So through my eyes, that meant as the workers ran into the problems, they couldn't fix the issues at hand because they couldn't communicate with the people who controlled the purse strings and or who controlled the power. And as I got older, I tested my perspective against many political and social setback, society backdrops, and as well as a variety of professional viewpoints. And I realized that time again, regardless of the sector, that my insight remained true to its core principles, that there was this gap in the way that things were done and the way that things were paid for. And so that I felt that my way to impact and have meaning in my life was going to be to create some kind of a discussion between the two groups. The next big impact, or the next big influence on my life was I was in the fashion industry as a teenager. And I found that as a model, each of the girls got paid according to their complexion. One day there was a group of us and we all showed our paychecks, and we realized that the darker skinned girls got paid the least and the lighter skinned girls got paid the most, and moderate complexion got paid somewhere in between, and then white girls got paid the most. And that was stunning. I never showed my paycheck again, but that was stunning. It was just one of those older teenage moments. And then I got into sewing and had a small line of clothes, 5 or 6 pieces. I had like 5 coats and then a few dresses. And I would travel back and forth to New York, but the business was dying in Boston. So I decided I would go to California. Well, once in California, I ended up working with a company called Bullock's Wilshire, which is very much like the Saks Fifth Avenue or the Bloomingdale's of Boston. And so Neiman Marcus, that kind of thing, only it was in a castle. So it was this terrific place where you could go in. It had a history of movie stars. And so male and female, so John Wayne and, Betty Grable and people like that from the old movie star days would come in. You could come in your bathrobe and hair rollers and basically come in a limousine. They would take you through the front door. They could dress you from head to toe, hairstyles and all that. And a lot of the early actors and actresses were country people. So they would teach them to walk and to talk and where the forks go and everything on the plate, so that they could present themselves in public and teach them how to wear furs and so forth. And so I got a job in the designer salon. And so I was there for a while. And I had never seen anything like that before. One day I'm closing the salon, it's closing time. And this young girl is in the dressing room. She's in her 20s and I'm in my 20s. I'm probably 25 or 26. And she was younger than I was. She was probably 23. or 24. Actually, she had graduated from college. So anyway, I go and I'm checking the dressing rooms and I can hear boom, 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 boom. And in the back those days, the dressing rooms had these full doors, and in the designer salon, you could serve wine or tea, depending on what the customer wants, because blouses were $200. The fur salon was next door, and the furs were 10 grand. So it was just the people were spending top dollar. And so I knock on the door and I said, "Are you okay?" She was the last person in the store. And she said, "I need your help. I need your help. Come on in." And so I said, "Well, okay." So I used my master key and I unlocked the dressing room door and I said, and she's laying on the floor. And I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Step on my stomach. I need you to help me get in my jeans." I said, "I'm not stepping on your stomach." And I realized the noise I was hearing, boom, boom, was her wrestling back and forth, and her elbows were hitting the floor while she was trying to zip her pants. So I just basically pulled her up by the front of her pants and I pulled the zipper shut and fastened them. I said, wearing jeans this tight, this was before stretch jeans, will keep you from being able to have a baby. It'll, they're doing stories about this. And so she said, "Well, I just got a job in news and I really need to be able to keep my figure. And this reminds me of how much I can eat and I can't eat. And if they find I'm gaining weight, I'm going to get fired." And she was just totally stressed out. I was like, "Calm down. What do you need?" So she needed a whole new wardrobe. She had just been hired for a major television station, and her first online story was going to be within 2 weeks. And she needed to just do a whole makeover. And so I decided I would help her do that. And so we were close in age and we became kind of fast friends. And so I was telling her where I was from and where she grew up. And, we were just exchanging family stories. So when it came time to go on the air, she goes, "I need you to watch me. I just need you to watch what I'm doing. Just let me know how I come across, because it's first time on air professional." So I sat down and I'm watching. And so the first story that comes on the air comes out of her mouth. I can see that she's reading from a teleprompter. And it was about my neighborhood. And she starts talking all this negative stuff. And she is so embarrassed and she's starting to turn red in front of the camera. And she knows I'm watching and she can't look at the camera because she's embarrassed about what she has to read. She hadn't written the story. She's just reading what was written and handed to her. And I realized right then that I was too smart to be doing the job, that I was smarter than her, and that I was not going to stay in the fashion industry, that I really needed to go back to my original dream of making, some kind of change in the world. And I didn't know what that change was going to be. I never saw her again. I think she was too embarrassed to come to the store. So a week or so later on in that week, there was a tall Black woman. She looked like Liz Walker. She was at least 6 feet tall. And she was brown skinned, short hair, and she was phenomenal looking. And so the woman that normally took care of her was the woman who I replaced back then. If a Black person was let go, then they hired one new Black person. So they sort of did this exchange where they had the token person for the token person, whatever. So I said to her, and she was the head of MGM Studios. And so her job was to hire different corporations from small companies from around the world who were willing to work, not in union wages, but who were willing to work for short money, who come to the United States and basically create a film production, like a chop shop, where they could turn films over very, very quickly, but not for union wages, because the film companies back then just didn't have the money. So they would hire 2 or 3 film companies in Europe, bring them over to the United States, they'd settle into a neighborhood, and then they would just work them to 60, 80 hours a week, which was against union wages. And then they would churn out these films in order to create a body of films to be able to show. And so she said that the way that these companies who can provide jobs in small communities would decide what neighborhoods they're going to move into was they would read the news. And if the news was negative, it didn't matter if it was true or not. They didn't have time to figure it out because they had to hit the ground running. So they would choose the neighborhoods based on what they heard in the news. And if the news was negative, they'd choose another neighborhood. So they had a tendency to choose the best neighborhoods to move into, and that's where they would provide the extra jobs and so forth and so on. And so I realized at that point that news was creating history regardless of whether it was accurate or not. And along the way, so I decided at that point I was going to come back home, back to Boston, and go to school and learn about film and video and learn the industry so that I could sort of create some kind of balance to the truth and history. Um, and so along the way, I also learned that the industry sort of supports itself in that they support its advertisers. So I eventually got a job in radio, and then I got a job in television. And along the way, I worked with small newspapers and a small magazine. And I found that advertisers often determine what the stories are going to be. For instance, when I was at Fox, there was a major story in the news where there was a guy with a van, white man with a van in Newton who was raping women. And the owner of the mall called the TV station and said, if you air that story, I'm going to pull all my advertising. And I realized at that point, if you can't afford to advertise and if you don't advertise, then you have no influence over what stories get told. And sometime later, when I was going to Roxbury, going down to Dorchester, Roxbury, which were the Black neighborhoods in Boston, coming through Franklin Park, which was sort of the gateway to the Black neighborhoods in Boston, all the news vans were there. It was somewhere right around learning that story. And I realized that this community has no power, regardless of whether they're Black or Native American or Hispanic or Asian. If you don't understand that you have no power with advertising in media, then you don't really have the ability to pull your advertising in or control or influence. That broadcast media had that kind of power. And so then I started paying attention to all of the different stories that were being told about people of color. And almost all the stories about Black people in particular were extremely negative, going all the way back to the Egyptians. Egyptians were cartoon. It was always evil. Everything was evil, or stupid or dumb or buffoonish, and I'm saying to myself, this is a historic legacy that's being built, and people who are undereducated, who are poor, who are, working class families do not understand that this is a legacy that's being handed on generation after generation. If you go all the way back to the days of slavery, it started then with the posters of the slaves for sale. It was the way that the folks who were selling slaves could make other people who were buying slaves feel less guilty about owning a human being. So how do you begin to think about that as change? Because I was born and raised in Boston, I developed this really strong awareness of the impact that music and communications media can have on customs and beliefs, particularly the acquisition of language, action, street culture, personal identification, and social development for young people. I'm from a big family. And so after I came back from California, back to Boston, I believe that if I could learn to master broadcast communications like I had seen this young person do in California, I could teach people about controlling negative cultural and community images in a way that could support equity and economic development in urban poor communities. So I decided to go to college. I went to Mass College of Art and learned that drawings, music, animation, movies, and news can create a cushion against the pain of the harsh realities, or they can create stereotypes in shocking disproportion to the truth, detrimental to a healthy psychological development. So for 12 years, I studied and worked in radio, newspaper, and television, TV. By 1995, I founded HERStory Institute based on my graduate research in urban studies and planning at MIT. Through HERStory Institute, which is an acronym for Economy, Work, and Lifestyle, I bring students around the world to show them to explore, study, and create mixed media projects that address real local to global socioeconomic issues. And my dream is to empower youth to use the power of their voice to create mixed media products to balance the vast inaccuracies in the storytelling of cultural people and the cultural histories of people of color around the world. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Paula. It was so wonderful to hear your journey all the way from childhood to where you are now with your nonprofit organization, and really hearing about how those racist issues have affected you, and with how you choose to empower young people. So thank you for sharing that. And how can people learn more about HERStory Institute and connect with you? And where can people find out more?
Okay, so HERStory again is an acronym for Economy, Work, and Lifestyle, and we can be found online. Somehow we can be found online at eworkstyle.org. That's EWORKSTYLE.org. Thanks again.
Thank you. Well, it's been such a delight to have you, and for speaking with our audience. We're really grateful to have you. Thanks,
I think
Paula.
this is wonderful. What you're doing is wonderful, and it's very much what I'm hoping that we'll see more of, because this is, for me, this is very much what I see as part of the solution to changing stereotypes. Just having people tell their stories and having people of color be seen as who they see themselves as, allow them to tell their own stories, as opposed to the stories always be reported by someone else, other than the person who is the story story themselves. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that. It was really important to us when we were formatting this series that the discussions are led by Black women, and that we're centering the stories of Black women and who are making history. So thank you again for coming on. We are so happy to have our next guest join us tonight. Starlene Alves is a partner at Al Santos PC and has over a decade of legal experience. Hey, Star. Starlene earned a Juris Doctorate with intellectual property concentration from New England Law. Starlene has a Bachelor of Arts in Legal Studies from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. Starlene's goal has always been to give back to her community and to provide legal services to those in need. She focuses much of her practice in transactional matters, including contract review and real estate, helping those in underrepresented communities understand their legal rights and obligations. She believes that the best law to practice is happy law, and assisting clients with buying their first home or investment property always leaves both her and her clients with a smile on their faces. So with that said, please give a warm welcome to Starlene. And Starlene, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Justina, for a wonderful introduction. So my name is Starlene Alves. I am a native of New Bedford. I was born and raised here. I went to New Bedford Public Schools. I think that I really was, my sole purpose here was to be a lawyer, because since the age of 5, I said I wanted to be a lawyer. And now in my adulthood, I think about this now, saying 5, wow. Because one, I think kids that young really don't say they want to be a lawyer unless they have someone close to them that is a lawyer, whether it's a parent, an aunt, uncle, close family friend. But for me, I didn't have anyone in my family that was a lawyer. I was first generation college student. And so I didn't have that representation. So for me at 5 to say I wanted to be a lawyer was something you really didn't hear of. And 2, I think of 5-year-olds now, and every other day they're really changing their mind. One day you want to be a firefighter, the next day it's a doctor, the next day it's a scientist. And for me, I never faltered from that. So I really had tunnel vision throughout my childhood and teen years with wanting to be a lawyer. So my education was really important to me. I knew that I needed to graduate high school to get into college. When I went to UMass Amherst, I didn't have a year of exploration or an undeclared major. I was a legal studies major from the beginning with a minor in psych. And then I went to law school right after I graduated college. So I didn't even take a break. I knew what I wanted. And I graduated law school, I think I was 25. From there, I continued to work at the law firm that I had started when I was 17 years old. So again, I always had that tunnel vision. At 17, I had an opportunity to work for a very busy law firm in the area, and I took that opportunity so that I could gain, professional experience in the legal field. And I stayed there for 11 years until I went out on my own. And I was a solo practitioner for about a year. And then a college friend of mine was also a lawyer at that time. She was working at a firm in Quincy, and she was a year behind me in my studies. And she had been working for a firm for a couple of years, and we just came up with this crazy idea, like, let's just start our own practice. And for us, it was really important because both of us being young and wanting to be lawyers, there wasn't much representation. I know for me, there were lawyers in the area, but there weren't many females, and I don't remember any females of color. And that was very important for me to show young girls or young people, period, particularly those of color, that they could do whatever they wanted to do, whatever they put their mind to. And that was important for me to stay in this area to show that, because I think we were lacking that. So we got together, we started our firm. We started with a small little office in New Bedford, and quickly got our second location in Brockton. Again, a small, 2-room office, and quickly outgrew that within the first year. And we had to get a larger suite, and now we have a full staff. We have associate attorneys at our firm, and we've grown so much in 3 years that I really couldn't have asked for anything more. It's hard to keep up, definitely, but I'm happy, and we're able to help the people that are underserved service and in communities that don't have a lot of representation. Our office is in New Bedford, and the second office is in Brockton. And Tanya and myself really wanted to have those locations to service our community. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have been so successful, is because it was a need, and we filled that need. So that pretty much sums up my journey, well, at least my professional journey.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing that. And as somebody who has known you since, I think we survived Keith Junior High School together, and then
yes, we did.
to school together through college. Starlene has definitely been focused on education, and she, I can definitely speak to that true focus on her dreams. So I'm really proud of you for seeing that through. And
thank you, Christina.
Yeah, of course. That brings me to my first question about, other young college students or people maybe like yourself who are dreaming about studying law? What's your advice for them?
I would say do it because you're passionate about it. It's definitely a sacrifice. It's definitely something that you have to have perseverance for. And if you don't have the passion behind it, it's going to be very hard to really see yourself through. Also having just confidence that you can do it. I mean, there's going to be obviously highs and lows, and there's going to be times that you feel like you can't do it, but you can. And I think I was very fortunate to have a support system that always was rooting me on and always telling me that I could do it, and just a soundboard when I needed to vent. And for some young people, they may not have that in their immediate circle, but just surround yourself with like-minded people. I think that was super important to me, and something that I did, even though none of my friends that I've grown up with, college friends, high school friends, became lawyers, but they were all like-minded people where they all were driven. And it was whether it's professionally in the corporate world or artistically, they had a passion and they were driven towards that. And that's who I surrounded myself with. So I think for young people, it's just knowing you can do it, never thinking that you're less than, never thinking that you can't do it or where you come from defines you or your circumstances define you. Because listen, I was a Bay Village child. Like, I came from the project. So it's not about your surroundings define who you are. It's what you're going to make of the opportunities that you have, and just focusing and being passionate about it. That's what I would say to young people.
Absolutely. Well, I hope that message reaches those who need to hear that. And I was updating on your websites and everything, and I was reading about your community involvement, and I know that you're truly a leader in the community, where you're sitting on the board of the United Way of Greater New Bedford, the Cape Verdean American Lawyers Association, and the Cape Verdean Association of New Bedford. So definitely a leader in the community. And I was wondering about, like, as far as marketing your business, is there a specific strategy that you and your business partner are working on to make it so that your business stands out? Is that something that you've had to focus on a lot?
Fortunately, we didn't really focus on what we call traditional marketing.
Okay.
Because our focus had always been, how do we connect with people and how do we build relationships? And I'm a big proponent of that, because you start building relationships with the people around you and in your community, business is going to come. And for us, it was about remaining authentic and making people feel comfortable when they step into our office. For us, it's not, coming into our office, it's not like you feel all stiff, like, oh my goodness, I'm going to meet with a lawyer. It's really, you see two young women who just are able to relate to you. I think that was the biggest thing. And that coupled with the fact that we are in areas where people need it, and we service people in different areas of law where there is a need. I think that really has helped us marketing wise. And it really has just been word of mouth. And that's the best marketing that in my experience you can have, because we have repeat customers, we have people referring other people to us, and no formal marketing strategy would have gotten us there. So for us, it's just about being relatable. We're younger, doing a website, doing things that maybe attorneys that have been in this field for a long time have a hard time kind of growing accustomed to. But we're just flexible. If we're dealing with a client that is younger or more tech savvy, doesn't want to come into the office, will hop on video or hop on Zoom or do a phone conference. Then we have some clients that absolutely don't want to do that and they want to come in and see us face to face. And that's the thing, it's being flexible. We're not stuck in any one way. So we try to offer everything for everyone. And for us, that has been the most success.
Yeah, and it sounds like just what you said, that you're able to meet a need. And I think I was reading that your partner in the Brockton office also speaks Cape Verdean Creole. Is that something that you're able to offer that would be unique and really also meeting a need for the community?
Absolutely, and I think for a lot of Cape Verdean clients, there's a sense of comfort to come in to an office and be able to speak directly to the attorney.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people in this community, you go to the doctor, they have to have a translator. You know, anywhere they go that they have to deal with something important, they have to have a translator, whether it's, you know, that particular facility providing them with a translator or them having to bring a family member, and nothing ever becomes just sacred to them. It's nothing is just, you know, their business, because someone else is always in the room. And there's a sense of relief to come into the office and be able to speak directly to the attorney. Our staff also speaks Cape Verdean Creole as well. So they feel like things are not getting lost in translation. And that is something that a lot of attorneys can't offer in the field, or you see a lot of attorneys that don't speak the language but have the staff that's able to speak the language. But again, that's someone still a middleman. And for a lot of people, just going right to the source and being able to speak directly to the attorney, I think is something that makes us stand out a little bit more.
Definitely. And also giving people that sense of belonging, like you're welcomed here and you belong. So, well, I want to thank you so much for sharing about Al Santos PC, and will you please let the people know how to find you, all of your sites and everything that you have going on?
So we do have a website. It is www.alsantoslaw.com. We are also on Facebook, and it's Al Santos PC. You can find us on Facebook. And then we also, anyone can reach us by telephone. Our office number is 774-203-9751.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Starlene Alves, for being a guest for tonight. And I think that we are learning a lot, and we're so happy to have you in our community. So I'm going to kick back to Rihanna. Thank you, everybody.
I'm so honored and excited to introduce tonight's musical performance, Marléna Johnson. Performer and model, Marléna Johnson is a former Miss New Bedford, Miss Fall River, and third runner-up to Miss Massachusetts. She was a featured performer on the farewell season of American Idol and also played a leading role in Thriller Live, a Michael Jackson tribute show in London's West End. In 2020, Marléna released her first self-written and co-produced EP entitled Come to Me, which is available on Spotify, Apple, and iTunes. Marléna, alongside her partner Jordan Fernandez, founded Studio 20 NB, a recording studio located here in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Marléna enjoys taking long walks and drives, acting silly, and spending time with her daughter and loved ones. I'm so excited to announce Marléna. She's a personal friend of mine who I've known since high school. She's always been such a talent and a bright light in my life. And so I'm so happy that we were able to have her for tonight's show, and I know you're going to enjoy her. Marléna, take it away.
Thank you for that introduction, Rihanna. My name is Marléna. I am a singer, songwriter, a model, former beauty queen, and a mother. I am very excited and honored to be a part of this here today. I'd like to share with you a song written by myself and my partner, Jordan Fernandez. The song is called Special. And I'm sharing a music video with you that we actually recorded in a few of the surrounding towns of New Bedford, South Dartmouth, Westport, and New Bedford. So very excited to always showcase pride for our city. If you like the song, you can follow me on Spotify, iTunes, Apple, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever. All my music is there, and I also perform live on Trubify, which is a streaming app for artists. That's Trubify, Trubify, and my name is Marléna Johnson on there. Thank you.
Wow. I don't know about you, but I'm totally feeling inspired after hearing our two great speakers so far and Marlena's song. I know that I mentioned in my intro that Marléna is a friend of mine. I've known her since high school, but man, like, even if I didn't know her, if I had that personal connection, like, so great, so catchy.
Awesome. Yeah.
So good. And I'm glad that she plugged where to find her songs, because definitely check her out and support her, stream her music. Such a great local talent, and it's amazing to see how far she's come and to have an EP that she's written and co-produced. It's just really so impressive to have someone who's really involved in the start to finish of making the music. So really excited for her and love that song. I'm going to be singing it the rest of the night.
Definitely. It's super catchy, and the video is amazing. It definitely feels like summer vibes coming from that video. So I loved that she was able to share that with us tonight. So thank you, Marléna.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for our speakers, like, wow. Both Paula
Really
and
good.
Starlene really so great. And I'll start with Paula. I thought that just her message was so strong, and something that I really appreciate about Paula is that she came to this area and just full throttle got so involved in the community. I had met her years ago, and her husband was
Okay.
involved with the Historical Society, and Paula was always at events and networking and introducing herself, and just such a great person that came and brought her talents here and then started bringing in community members to what she was doing. I know that she took part in E4All and again, just started making connections. She's always networking. She's always looking out for who she can help lift up with her. And I always appreciate that about someone when they're able to start a business, start a program, have an accomplishment, and they're always lifting as they climb. And I think that Paul is like such a great example of someone who's doing that and making sure that there is representation and making sure that she's always looking out for people who could use the assistance and that she can share her knowledge with.
That is really special about Paula. And I think that's so cool that we have another E4All alum with us tonight. And also like hearing her story from childhood and through her professional journey about how these experiences have, made her really want to seek that representation and teach and share and develop these internships for young adults. And I'm like really excited to spread the word about that for our community, that she meets down at the Low Tide Yacht Club for eWork Style, and their new cohort begins in September. So I hope people really take advantage of that
program. And Starlene, just so great to hear from someone, especially a young woman who has been so motivated. And I loved in her story hearing that she ensures that there's representation at her firm, having people who don't speak a language. It's so great to know that they have a lawyer who can really advocate for them, because I know that interpretive services can be really challenging for people, and sometimes the system can just be so overwhelming and intimidating. And to know that there's someone who looks like you, who understands your background, it can make such a difference when approaching a sensitive issue or something that you really need assistance with.
Definitely. And she's really easy to talk to. She's so approachable. She's involved in different organizations as on boards, and she's really an active member of our community and giving back to the city that raised her. And I'm really excited to let people know that her office is in New Bedford and in Brockton, and they're accepting new clients, and that they service people who speak Creole. And so yeah, I hope people will head over to alsantoslaw.com and check out what they have going on.
Yeah, really great. And Justina, I know that Buy Black has some really great stuff going on. So
Yes,
you want
yes,
to share
yes.
with us what you have planned?
Yes, I'm really excited to announce this, everyone. So on Juneteenth, we will be celebrating with our first Black market. And a little bit about Juneteenth. It's also known as Black Independence Day. It commemorates June 19th, 1865, when the news officially was the end of slavery in the US. And this was like 2.5 years after the formal Emancipation Proclamation. But this is a day of recognition and empowerment for the Black community and its allies. So I'm really excited to announce that we'll be celebrating Juneteenth this year with a pop-up Buy Black business market. It's going to be at the Roach Jones Stuff House. It's in downtown New Bedford. Free parking, come shop. There's lots of other celebrations happening that day, and we'll be bringing awareness to all of those as well. So you don't want to miss it. We're selecting a diverse group of vendors, so you have the best experience and an opportunity to find your next favorite product. and you can shop small, you can shop local, Black owned. So we hope that you're able to attend, and just continue to use Buy Black NB as a resource for all of your shopping and service needs by buyblacknb.com. And it's the key to economic equity and empowerment for our community. So I was really excited to bring the news about that event for everybody. There's a Facebook event on our Facebook page, so you can stay in tune to what's going on, what's coming up. We'll be announcing the vendors as we secure them. So thank you for reminding me.
Congratulations, because I know that Buy Black was awarded one of the grants from NB Creative. So congratulations. Yeah. This has been such a great effort on your behalf and on the city's behalf. So thank you, Justina, for all you're doing, and really looking forward to seeing how Buy Black NB continues to grow.
Thanks, Rihanna. Yes, and thank you to NB Creative for the support. So Rihanna, what's coming up next?
So for our final speaker of the evening, we have Tanya Watkins. Tanya is a high-ticket sales coach, as well as a best-selling author, speaker, digital course creator, podcast host, and advocate against domestic violence. With over 17 years of corporate sales and marketing experience, more than $120 million in revenue for Fortune 250 businesses, Tanya now works with business owners who are ready to scale in a smart and savvy yet modern way. As the founder of Massive Brand Consulting, Tanya works with professional and creative women to create, market, and sell high-ticket courses and coaching offers with the power of lucrative marketing strategies, systems, and automations to scale and high-performance teams. Tanya, so excited to have you here tonight. Welcome.
Welcome, Tanya.
Thank you, Rihanna, so much for the warm welcome. I'm so happy to be here, so honored. So again, thank you. I hope and pray that your audience enjoys this time with us. So, that is my goal, that they have a great time and that they get to walk away with some great nuggets to hopefully build their business. So I always like to say that I kind of fell into entrepreneurship almost by accident. And so I was just talking to you about how I'm so quick, and now I'm like, wait a minute, there's a backstory to how I started. So maybe I might need more time. But I started kind of by accident because I was in a relationship that I was not happy with. In fact, it was verbally and mentally abusive. And I needed an outlet. I needed something to do just to be away from the situation, but also to start to secretly save money to be able to move out on my own. And so that was about 10 years ago. And I fell into a network marketing company. In that time that I was, in that business, I was able to leave that relationship, but also figure out, wow, I'm really good at this. So much so that people were coming to me and saying, I see what you're doing online. You have this health and fitness business, but it's growing and you're always posting about it. And I see that you're getting engagement. What is it that you do? And how did you learn this? And so it went from me sharing about my health and fitness business to teaching people how to share about their business online. From there, I started to help women with their websites and with their social media presence. And then before you knew it, I was creating coaching programs, digital courses, workshops, webinars, you name it, helping women to achieve their freedom, right? From whatever it was that they needed to get free from. And so here it is almost 10 years later, in this business, officially about 5 years, almost 6 years, that I've been helping women create, market, and sell digital programs, workshops, build their brand online. And it's been super cool because it's just, again, something that I did not expect. But there's definitely a need in the marketplace. And this also gives me the allowance to have my ministry my way. So one of the things that people know about me is that I come from a church family. We are pastors, ministers, deacons, all the things. And I get to share a way, with my audience of how I can be of service and almost have my own little pulpit, so to speak. Also share things of faith and give encouragement and, mindset practices through my content and also my services. So it's been a journey, And I feel like it's just getting started.
Thank you so much, Tanya. That was awesome and so inspiring. I love that you opened up with us about what your path was and how you've gotten here. So really excited. And I just have a couple of questions for you to hear more about what you're doing. So the first question I have is, what do you find is the most common challenge that your clients face, and how do you help them to work through that challenge?
Absolutely. So I will say most women are, even though we don't call ourselves that always, we do have the ambition. It's like always here. Some of us are louder about it. Some of us have the vision board. Some of us are posting about it. But we all know what we want. And so one of the biggest hurdles, I will say, with my clients is stepping in that and staying in that, right? So yes, we want all the things, whether it's, a booming business or large family, to be an influencer, or whatever it is, but like really staying in the space to create that. So it's showing up daringly, like without unwavering, thinking about what everyone else is going to say or do. That is the biggest challenge. It's like we get going and then something happens to where we feel like, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right path for me? It's not happening fast enough, or it's happening, but not in the way that I expected it to. And so the biggest challenge is, how do we, throughout all of that, say, but I'm clear on what I desire, and that's all that matters. So a lot of my conversations, you would think it's about marketing and font and all the things, engagement and all the tactics and key performance indicators. And usually it's like, girl, go do the thing you said you was gonna do. Because sometimes it's just the accountability and the reminder that, like, I'm here for a reason. So living in her purpose every day, all day, on purpose, I would say, is one of the things that we tend to find is the biggest struggle.
And I don't want to throw you a curveball, but something you just said sparked another question for me when you said living in your purpose. Do you feel that your family's background of being in the church, like you said, being pastors, being speaker, like, does that influence how you work? Do you feel that you kind of draw on that in what you're doing with your clients, or just how you're speaking with everyone?
I think I feel like I always say, if I teach you the business, great. If I can sprinkle some Jesus, even better. So I think I do it on purpose. Mm-hmm. But really, it's just, I know so many women who desire to have more and be more and do more. And so really it comes from that place. Like, if I can help her in this one moment, I can potentially change the trajectory of her life and her business forever. So it's also like with that in mind, like, how cool is it that we get to do this? Like, you and I, how cool is it that we get to do this right now? Right. We get to talk to women and men too about stepping out and being bold and being a woman of color, being a Black woman, and sharing our story and empowering others to be able to share their story. So more than anything, it's that this is a privilege and it's an honor. And so it's like, when you're in this, you can't not know it, you can't not feel it, and you can't not, like, it's something that you can't undo. And so really it comes from a place of, if I have the opportunity to help someone just with one thing, to push the needle in just 1% forward, I'm going to do it.
Awesome. Thank you for that. It's really great. And my last question is, many of the speakers that we've featured so far have emphasized the necessity of building community while being an entrepreneur, and especially as a Black woman. We've had people talk about neighbors from their business, or just people that they know that have showed up for them, that have offered insight, that have just offered a helping hand. And so how do you help to build community in your field?
To the question, I think it's really about being vocal and saying that I'm actively building a community. Listening to the women who follow me and creating content that is speaking to them. I think oftentimes we get so bogged down about, like, what do I need to say so that I can show up? But it's also about, what can I do to create a space to make people feel warm, welcome, to feel like they have a place. I think what we've learned over the past year is that sometimes it's hard to feel like you belong. when you are sometimes in a situation, in a city, in a state, in a country that doesn't always make you feel accepted. And so with that alone, it's like, how do I not? And so, you know, someone had asked me, do you focus on women of color specifically? And I do and I don't. So when I'm creating and when I'm, you know, my spaces or whatever it is, my programs, it's with her in mind. So, you know, like, you know, our hearts always align, right? So we know when it's for us. And if anyone wants to join in, they're more than welcome. But we have a responsibility as creators to create space for women who look like us, because then why not? And so I say, you know, for people who are looking, well, how do I go about creating that space? It's being open, it's asking questions, it's opening, engaging conversation. It's listening to what people are saying and, you know, creating content around that. And, you know, really just, again, being open and saying that this is for us.
Yep. And that's part of how these events even came about when Justina from Buy Black approached me and she wanted to collaborate with the Historical Society. She had been brainstorming some ideas. I thought of some ideas, and we both just landed on, let's do something surrounding Black women business owners, and let's give a spotlight and an opportunity for those who often don't get to tell their story, who often don't have the support, don't have the showing, but who have been the backbone, right, of our economy and our culture and our community. Let's put a spotlight on them and give an opportunity to share so many stories. And we've probably said this before, but we're doing this. We launched it during Black History Month, and we brainstormed so many Black women business owners that we were like, this has to be a series. Like, this can't just be a one-time hour-and-a-half Zoom. We're like, we have so many great women in our community that we need to get as many as we can in. And so we're happy.
And actually, we're like the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs, Black women. But we're also most often the least paid, which means our businesses, by and large, are earning way less and bringing way less revenue than other segments in this entrepreneurial space. So that's also another reason why it's important for us to have these conversations, create these communities, so that we're able to teach the women that look like us how to build their business faster, stronger, scale better, so that we're able to, you know, take some of the market share that we deserve.
That's so great. And I think that's one of our biggest hopes, is that someone tuning in is inspired, or maybe already had an idea and maybe was nervous, apprehensive, and here's what you've said, here's what some of our other speakers have said, and they're like, all right, time to go for it. Gives it a little push. So excited. And again, not to throw you a curveball, but when you're talking, I thought of just one more question. And I don't know if you have one, but when you're talking about all your different programs, do you have a favorite program that you run? Or do you love them all equally?
I'm actually focused on one, and I was going to share this later, but I'll share this little tidbit later.
Okay.
It's the reason why that this one program is the focus. And so it's called High Ticket Offer Elixir. And basically it's an intensive program. It's a group program where I teach you how to create and then launch your course, your coaching program, your mastermind. Many of us have an idea, like, we're like, oh my God, if I could package this up and sell it, it would be amazing. But it's like, how do I do that? Like, how do I package it? How do I create the marketing around it? How do I create the messaging to attract the right people? What's the price gonna be? Like, what is the website gonna look like? How am I gonna take payment? What's, like, all of those things. So that is our, like, flagship program, signature program that we are, you know, enrolling women into. So that's my baby.
Wonderful.
And I feel like there's just so many women who are like, if I could just have this, I'll be off to the races.
Great.
So.
Well, that's a perfect segue, because my final question is, if people want to take your courses, if people want to get a hold of you, work with you, be mentored by you, hire you, how do they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Well, they can visit my website, tanyawatkins.com, or DM me on Instagram. I'm actually like one of the cool cats now, using Instagram a little bit more. So I'm playing around there. One of the things I was going to say is that I've also launched a new business. So I am a licensed real estate agent in the state of Massachusetts. So if you're looking to buy and sell a home, you can also hit me up as well. And that is why we're focused on this core offer that we're going to really do up, because now we have another baby, another business to foster and nurture.
So exciting. Tanya, it was such a pleasure to hear from you. Really exciting work. Just so inspiring how you've gotten here. You've developed so much, and the women that you're impacting. I'm so excited. I'm sure that anyone watching, like, watch out for Tanya, because we'll be hearing her name many, many times. And I hope that if anyone is in need of services to help grow your business idea, to help with marketing, any of that, reach out to Tanya. She's a great resource right here in the South Coast. And I just truly appreciate your time, and looking forward to seeing how things go with this new project and your new endeavor as a real estate agent. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All
Have a
right.
great night. So thank you all for joining tonight. It was a wonderful evening. I learned so much from our speakers, and I appreciate everyone sharing their story, opening up to us. And I hope that everyone listening was able to take something away from tonight. Truly such a special evening, and we really appreciate everyone's time. Tonight's theme with women in business, I think that there was so much that we could all learn. And we're really looking forward to our next month's session, which will be Thursday, May 27th, and it is about Black-owned businesses that are beauty. And we will feature Black women who are in that industry, and we're really excited to welcome them for next month. So you'll see below in the description that there is a link to register for our next session. Please make sure that you do that, and we'll be sending out an email as well. So we're really looking forward to seeing you next month. Hope that everyone enjoys the rest of their night. Take care and stay safe.